question is from Assembly Member Twycross and relates to Brexit.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman. When she called the general election, the Prime Minister explicitly sought a mandate from the British people for her version of a hard Brexit. But the electorate registered their opposition to that outcome across the country, but here in London most clearly of all. And it's time, frankly speaking, she heeded the message. I'm now hoping to see a more pragmatic and flexible approach from the government now that the negotiations have begun. The goalposts have been moved. Theresa May and her government must now listen to the will of the people by putting aside their rejected hard Brexit approach and instead seeking to negotiate a sensible Brexit. Continued membership of the single market is our best chance to protect the ability of London's key business sectors: finance, professional services, tech, creative, life sciences, higher education. Within the single market, they can continue to trade free from tariff or non-tariff barriers with our single largest export market. Signalling that Britain aims to stay in the single market would also give the many EU citizens who make London their home, they are Londoners, and they contribute to our economy the security that I have previously called on the government to offer them. I am pleased to finally see proposals from both sides on how to address the rights of the Europeans living in the UK and UK citizens in Europe. But given the referendum was over a year ago, I am frustrated that 1 million Londoners who are EU citizens still don't have the certainty they deserve. This needs to be resolved as soon as possible. Come what may, businesses need certainty to plan ahead and invest. So it's also vital that the government seeks to negotiate a transitional deal with the EU so that we have a fallback option if, as expected, it is not possible to secure a trade deal alongside during the next 2 years. By doing so, we will reduce the real risk of crashing out of the EU and falling back on basic World Trade Organization rules, creating tariffs on British goods sold in the EU and putting up hugely damaging barriers for services. Unless such a deal is agreed soon, businesses will take their own measures to avoid the cliff edge, and that could be costly to them and to London's and the UK's economy.
Thank you. From where I sit, it looks like the government approach has continued to be completely shambolic. How confident are you that they'll actually get their act together and get a Brexit deal that does indeed work for London and Londoners, as you outline, and does not damage London's economy and by default Londoners' livelihoods and indeed, as you point out, their right to remain?
Can I just say, look, I spent a couple of days in Brussels a few weeks ago talking to President Tajani, meeting with the key negotiator Guy Verhofstadt, meeting with President Juncker, speaking to President Tusk. There is no intention on the part of the EU to punish us. They're heartbroken we're leaving. What doesn't help, and they're going to jump up and down now when I say this or ask for a point of personal explanation, is when the previous mayor says they are whistling in the wind. That is not the way to behave if you're the Foreign Secretary. That is not the way to conduct negotiations. And I think somebody should take a cool, calm look at themselves, how they're behaving, and what's in the best interest of our city and our country. And the way to negotiate responsibly as an adult is to treat the other side with respect, to do your homework. Do your homework. Know who your team are, including who of them are women, when it comes to negotiating with the European Union. And I'm afraid the evidence I have, I'm not part of the negotiating team, is our advanced Sherpa team is ill-prepared. The evidence I have so far, there are no plans for what happens 2 years, 1 day. We've wasted a year already from the referendum vote. The Article 50 was served in March when it didn't need to be, posturing to the EU. And I hope, now that the Prime Minister has been humbled by the verdict of the British public, who've said no quite clearly to a Tory, hard, extreme Brexit, that should be sensible as a Prime Minister and move forward in a constructive way. And that includes, by the way, there's nothing stopping the Prime Minister giving a cast iron guarantee today to all Londoners who are EU citizens and all those across the country who are from the EU that they have a right to remain here with good rights even after we've left the European Union. Don't use people as bargaining chips.
No, I agree, and actually you preempted my comments. I've got the quote written down from Boris Johnson because I think it's...
Be careful, there'll be some jumping up and down there.
I just think it's incredibly important that we don't write him out of history here or either in his stage, national stage. So how damaging do you think his comments and those of other prominent Conservatives could be?
Can I just listen? I've been cleaning up his mess here for the mess over the last 8 years. What is astonishing? What is astonishing? You see, that's what's remarkable. You see, their embarrassment is for 8 years they supported this guy, have the audacity to criticise us for cleaning up his mess. And they're embarrassed, and we get that. But what they've got to recognise is this guy is now the Foreign Secretary.
Yeah.
He's in an extremely important position. And posing, doesn't lead to good results for our country and those who need a good deal with the European Union. And they may not like the fact that he's the Foreign Secretary, but he is. We've got to make sure that we as City Hall, we as people who are proud patriots and understand the importance of having a good deal with our European neighbours, put pressure on the Prime Minister, put pressure on the government to get a good deal with the European Union. I chaired yesterday a business advisory board meeting with some of the leading business people in our country, and I'd say across the world, from Bloomberg to Facebook, leading companies who are here in London. And frankly speaking, unless the government changes course, unless senior members of the government reflect on their behaviour, some of these will have no choice but to think about making plans to go elsewhere in the EU. And that's heartbreaking for me as somebody who wants to be a pro-business mayor, but also it should be heartbreaking for all of us who want London to carry on being a great city.
Absolutely. Thank you.